What is going on, my friends? Welcome back to the Formula Podcast with your host, Trevor Carlson. On the Formula, I share with you my experiences, experiments, and conversations around designing a fulfilling life in whatever form that means for you. This episode is following my stay at the War hostel in Sarajevo back in June. It was one of the most impactful experiences I've been through that caused a large perspective shift for me in how I view my day-to-day to how I'm planning out my future. How I'm chasing down a lot of things that I'm a little bit afraid of and kind of forgiving myself for mistakes that I've made in the past. I wish I could more thoroughly explain how experiencing just a sample of what these survivors went through changed me, because I would love to share that impact with you, to see that impact in your life. The closest thing that I can bring you, though, is that I had with the War Hostel host, 01, on what led up to him opening up the War Hostel and how his perspective was shaped by the suffering that he went through as a young child, going through basically an apocalypse. Now, before we jump into that, let's hear a quick word about our sponsors, and then we'll get the show rolling. The first sponsor for this episode is Lady Boss. Lady Boss is a women's fitness and health company that really tries to provide as many resources as possible to help women live the healthiest lives possible. So if you want to check out some of their free resources, you can head on over to theformulapodcast.com's sponsored products page and click the link there to head to their website and see what types of different free guides and workout plans, stuff like that they have available for you. Now, the second sponsor for this episode is Liquid Web. If you've listened to any of our episodes about, launching your own e-commerce company or an online business, they have these pre-made solutions for you that you can just go on over and sign up for. Now, if you check the show notes, they provided Formula Podcast listeners with a little bit of a coupon code, so you can just check out the show notes. I believe it's Formula 33. You get 33% off all Liquid Web products. So big shout out to them for hooking us up. Now, let's get on with the show.
My name is 01. I know it's a strange name, but the reason I decided to use it is because it's a tribute to my dad, who used this name as a code name during the war, which I happened to survive with my family. Most people have heard of it. It lasted for 4 years and it was everywhere on the news. And this war is about the war in Bosnia, and I specifically survived the siege of Sarajevo, which lasted for 4 years. And to sum it up, basically 4 years of just being shot at, bombed, no electricity, water, gas, food, nothing, no connection with the outer world, and just you were struggling to survive every day. And that's what was my life for 4 years. Another reason why I use my name, the name that I picked, 01, is because I believe in choice. I also believe that we're all the same, we're all just people, and that's my identity, human person, just a guy. And where I'm from, there's a lot of conflict, a lot of division, and I didn't want to participate in that. And again, I just see myself as a guy, just as a person.
I signed up for this experience or simulation that you guys have here. I found it through a Google search, which is, it's known as the War Hostel, and it's a simulation of what you guys went through during siege. When you first walk in, it's pretty real. I mean, the newspaper clippings, I think those just kind of put it over the top when you're reading about everything that happened. So maybe you can give a short version of what happened during the siege, and then how that really led into the creation of the simulation that you created.
So what happened basically is that society went totally against each other here, and there was this huge conflict that just kicked the city back into Stone Age, and it was a full-on apocalypse. No water, no food, no internet, of course, at the time, no connection with the outer world. There was no electricity, no gas. It's just this prison that you live in because the city is blocked and you're getting shot at from all sides. And we just happen to be in between all of that. We happen to be in that big mess. And life, with a bit of luck and a bit of skill, we managed to survive. For years, we struggled to live after the war, and that's like 90% of the people here. The only people who managed to have a better life were the people who profited in the war, and they came out of it much better off than the 90%, which I happen to belong in. It was very difficult, but I saw that one day that there was an interest in this subject, and I decided to share my story with the world in a unique way by building essentially a place which simulates just the living conditions without any fear, without any danger, just how we lived, from sleeping on the floor on some makeshift beds using some wartime blankets to gray atmosphere. The walls are painted gray, there's some bullet holes, to using some wartime blankets to gray atmosphere. The walls are painted gray, there's some bullet holes, to having to collect water, to having to collect some firewood if you want to cook yourself some food, and just the essentials. Somebody who comes here and has the chance to witness this and hear our stories firsthand is really impacted by it, much stronger than the person would be impacted by watching a documentary or reading a book or just anything else but this. So that's why this place is really unique, and it picked up a lot of attention on the media. At some point, I even was on the front page of New York Times, which I'm sure most people are familiar with. The project was built to bring people closer to this story, to have them understand a bit better what we went through. And at the same time, I'm trying to support my younger crowd, people sleep on bunk beds and whatever. My place is open for everybody, but it is, after all, still accommodation, and that's why we use the prefix hostel. But actually, it's more like a unique project. It's more like something like a simulation, like a museum where you can sleep, or maybe even like simulated time travel where you can go back in time and witness firsthand the conditions of how people lived at the time. This is what the project is about, and this is what I do.
I mean, you've done a great job. I think sleeping in a museum is kind of almost a good way to describe it, because there's no electricity here, well, for the most part, and there's no running water. You can kind of dive in as deep as you want. You can cook your own food on a makeshift stove. You can go as deep as you want to on this. But I think one of the things that caught my eye was the epic.
So there's a description that is pretty long about this place, and the reason being is that this place is quite extraordinary, and it's really unique in the world. There's nothing like this in the entire world. That's why obviously we made the front page and the New York Times. We had to write a longer description so that people know what to expect. If I just write, everybody's welcome, the doors are open, and that's it, people come here and they realize, okay, we have to sleep on the floor, so there is no electricity, there is no internet, there is no water. The gunfire sounds are driving me crazy, and obviously it would be like the worst reviews, Hundreds of people would give the worst reviews and would be like, don't go there, it's a terrible place, and it would totally miss the point, So that's why I had to write, look, this, and it would totally miss the point, So that's why I had to write, look, this is what we're about. This is what you can expect here. This is who we are. Does this sound like it's for you? No? Then you can go ahead and just go to any place besides this. But if it sounds like it's for you, if it sounds like you want something different, and this is it. This is the description of, something different, something epic, something that will really make your travel memorable. Then that's it. That's why people should come. The description acts like a filter. If people see it's not for them, then great. I saved them time and money, and I saved myself time and money. So that's why if you look at our rating, for example, or if you look at the reviews, all of the people that came here, they love the place because what they get out of it is exactly what was promised in this description, to make like a brutally honest description, just no bullshit, no sugarcoating, and just telling it as it is. Most people that come here, they really love the description, and they say that's one epic description, you know. There's even like a FAQ as an additional thing, like, because you know people have questions, so there's even an FAQ which answers just the basic questions that keep repeating.
What sold me on it is the description. I read through it the first time and I was like, is this real? And then I read through it again, and I'm pretty sure I signed up just immediately after that. I think some people, I told some friends and family I was doing this. They thought I was insane for paying to stay in a place that didn't have running water. I mean, for me, it was, you guys delivered. I mean, it was an epic experience. I mean, the sleeping here, there's sounds of simulated gunfire and artillery shells going off. And then the tour that you guys took us on out to the front lines was just crazy.
I would just add to that that's exactly what we want. That's, you know, we want to leave an impression on everybody who comes here, and we want to bring them closer to this story. So yeah, of course, the place is extraordinary. And of course, on first glance, like, if somebody would tell you, would you stay at a place where, you know, there's no electricity, where there's nothing, they would be like, that's a dump. Why would I stay there? You know, that would be like the worst place. Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is, this is how we lived for 4 years. This is how we actually lived for 4 years, and we had no choice. We had no chance to escape it. This was our reality for 4 years. This is what we had to get used to. And that's what's important. And people come here by choice, and they can leave whenever they want. It's not a problem. So what they can gain here is perspective. And that's really powerful. So maybe that's what a lot of people miss on. They think, why would I stay there? Why would I waste my time someplace when there's no commodities, nothing? Because you would gain perspective. But the most epic thing that you have the chance to witness here is not the place itself. It's meeting me and hearing my stories. Because when again do you have the chance to meet somebody from this specific event that happened and to talk to him, and he is open to talking about it. So that's really epic. It happened in this place, in this home. We are the actual survivors who survived in this home. In this room. This was a living room. That room was the kitchen. So, and you talked to us, and we just decided to make the environment more interesting, so you don't have to imagine. When I tell you the story before this was made, you have to imagine the beds. You have to imagine the beds. You have to imagine how the atmosphere looked like. You have to imagine what it was like without the water, without the electricity, collecting the firewood. This way, you don't have to imagine. You can try it yourself. I know that maybe some people would think, but aren't you almost playing like war games or whatever? I can't stress this enough. I told countless journalists, I said, look, this is not a game. It's not a game. It's all about learning. And this is not some huge McDonald's type business. You see where your money goes. You see who you are supporting, essentially war survivors, and you're supporting their educational project. It's a strange one. It's a weird one. It has a point. It has a good point. For some people, they take away the perspective. Other people start to appreciate things more. Because let's be honest, this is like one of the toughest places to stay in as accommodation. And any accommodation after this is going to be heaven. You know, it's going to make you realize, wow, I have so much, whereas before you thought you have so little. That's why this place is that unique. That's why it made the headlines. That's why there was a lot of coverage everywhere from the US to Japan. It's really something different.
When people come here, you hope that they leave with different perspective, maybe some gratitude for what they have now. Is there any other life lessons or things that you'd like them to walk away from after they check out?
I really believe that whatever topic it is, that a person, first of all, has to be interested in the topic to want to listen, and a person has to know how to listen. Some people don't know how to listen. If you know both, if you are interested in the topic And if you know how to listen, then that's great, because then you can really learn something. But you also have to have this mental capacity to understand certain things. I run this place and I meet thousands of people. Not everybody's going to be touched a specific way or learn a specific thing. So everybody gets something different out of it. But whatever it is, I hope it's something positive. That's what I hope. This is outside of my control. What I promise to deliver, I deliver it. I excel in that. But their reception and how they perceive things, that's up to them. You know, if they don't want to listen, if they come here, if they don't want to listen, if they have it all figured out, then that's a different story. Probably you can't have a lot of impact in a person like that. But if a person is willing to listen, if a person, you know, wants to hear you out, then there's a slight chance that maybe they'll take something more out of this experience than just, you know, saying it was there. But they have to have that kick. They have to be the ones who want something out of it. Whatever it is, I hope it's something positive.
It's hard to put into words, but when I think about I probably have this in common with a lot of people out there, where there's probably some really dumb shit that I've complained about or been like, God damn it, I can't believe this shit happened. I have the worst luck. But then when you're presented with like actual problems or actual things that happen, then it's like, man, my problems aren't that bad, or could substantially be worse. Or, you know, it's almost like taking a step back and being like, man, I'm really lucky to have the things that I do have and to have problems that I have as well. Not big problems, but the little ones. And that's what I definitely took away from it. And I mean, to me, everything that happened was just, it's hard to wrap your head around, really. For me, it is. For you guys that lived it, it's different. But the most eye-opening part was the tour that we did with your dad out on the front lines, because he was out there. You might have to correct me on this, but he was basically running like phone lines between bunkers and making sure that during like the bombings and attacks and stuff that everyone was still in contact. So when everyone else was kind of hiding out in bomb shelters, he was running between different posts and making sure that everyone was still able to talk to each other. So hearing his stories of what happened, that was just intense. And there was two things that he said that really stood out. And one was, he said he was asked a bunch of times like how they were able to hold everyone off, because it was really just a local militia. It wasn't like an organized modern army or anything. And that was, they were like all that was standing between this army and their family and their homes. Like they were protecting their families, so they weren't going to give up easily or anything like that. And I thought it was just a very striking statement how he said it. And it was, I don't know. I still haven't processed all of it. But the second thing was, I asked him some question about what happened after the siege ended. And he said something along the lines of, we danced in the fucking street. We were so happy that we were still alive, and we celebrated. We were standing on like the side of the mountain next to a house that had been kind of turned into a bunker or something. And he was even starting to dance there a little bit. So you could just tell that like the difference in what things were like then and what they're like now, or even right after. He was just, even though that he went through hell, he was just like, holy shit, we made it.
So just to add on that, it's like a second chance in life. It's like your doctor. There's something that most people can relate to. It's like your doctor tells you, hey man, this is how much you have to live. And then it's over. Let's say it's 2 months. Yeah. And you just, at that point you say, okay, I'm going to try everything to see if it works. All the alternative medicine, I'm going to try everything just to stay alive, just to survive this thing, just to beat this thing, whatever it is. And you try everything and nothing works. Nothing works. Yeah? You just kind of give up on it. Come to terms that, okay, this is it. This is how you will die. And then what happens? You don't even expect it. You already gave up. But actually, it's a miracle. You got cured. So how would you feel after that? You'd probably be dancing as well, right?
Yeah, I'd be dancing. I mean, I'm sitting here listening to you describe it, and that was a perfect way to describe that.
Dude, every day is a second chance. After that, you see things different. Because before you were like, okay, food is just food. house, whatever, roof. Because before you were like, okay, food is just food. House, whatever, roof above your head, whatever, bed, nothing hurts you. Life could be better. I want the iPhone, the latest. I want the cars. I have a girlfriend, but my buddy has a better one. I want to have the better one. I want to have this. I want to have that, you know? So after something like this, dude, everything is a second chance, and you start appreciating things and looking things in a different light. It's with a lot of almost respect towards life and towards everything. And you just try to, I know it's going to sound cliche. I know it's going to sound a bit, almost like preaching or whatever. But after something like that, you start to appreciate every second. You start to look life in a different way, probably be just like some Westerners, just like living a mediocre life, wanting some things that are not really that important. But I guess to those people who never experience something as bad or as eye-opening, to them those things that they want are really important. They're really important. But through my eyes, they're not important. Obviously, what is important is the people that you love. Because the iPhone, it will always be around. It will be around even after you die, But the people that you love and all of that, it's not going to always be around, and it gives you a different perspective, a different view. That's what I have to say. That's what I have to add on this.
The older I get, I'm making myself sound like I'm like 70 years old instead of 31. The older that I get, I think that these are things that, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I'd be like doing something because you think that you have to. I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that, because you really, your teenage years and you really grew up in post-war. How did that affect what things that you pursued?
I think that everybody fights their own battle. And why did you come to the conclusion that certain things matter and other things don't? Because you fought your own battle and you've lost, but you've gained at the same time this knowledge. And that's like philosophy. It's just life. It's just growing up. It's just part of being an adult. And I started being an adult mentally when I was a kid. I was realizing that something is wrong, and then you start questioning things, then you start connecting the dots, and then you start realizing things, and you live in a different reality. If you look at my example, and if you look at other examples of kids growing up in terrible conditions, inhumane conditions, you will see that if you look at other examples of kids growing up in terrible conditions, inhumane conditions, you will see that the kids are forced to grow up earlier than most people. They don't have really a normal childhood. And that's exactly what happened in my case. However, I thought that all of this chaos and the post-war, all the scars from the war on the streets and on the buildings, like you see like these bullet holes and you see these holes from bombs. I thought it was normal. I thought that's just how the world looks. I thought that's everywhere. But when you realize that's extreme, and then you realize, okay, you survived this, and then they tell you the stories, and you grow up hearing it, and you become fully aware of it. There's like almost like a journey of you reconnecting with your past and understanding what you went through. But once you do understand, once you do reconnect, then look at it. You look at life differently. What is there that I can't? What is there that I can't? Some people could say, oh, you couldn't survive probably cancer and whatever. Yeah, but that's different. It's not a bullet. It's not somebody else taking your life. That's just nature doing its thing, It's totally different. So this really has changed a lot. And there is that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that's absolutely true, 100% true. I think it's like almost like, I might be wrong here, but I think it's like this Buddhist saying. They say like, I'm not into that. I just heard, okay, so I might be wrong. They said like, without suffering, there is no growth. It's pretty much the same thing that I'm trying to explain here. You gotta suffer in life if you want to grow as a person. You can't just live under a bell, have everything wipe your ass for you. You're gonna turn out being some spoiled kid from Beverly Hills that just on the first glance of something being just not the way that he or she likes it to be, they're gonna put a huge tantrum. It's gonna be pathetic to look at. But in their world, that really matters. It's because they never suffered. So you have to suffer. I told you, everybody fights their own battles. But this, what we went through here, is not normal. It's not humane. It's not right. It shouldn't happen. But it did.
I was imagining your reaction to somebody throwing a tantrum in front of you about something trivial as like their iPhone.
I would just laugh. I would just laugh and be like, "You're just a kid. That's what you are. You're just a kid. You know nothing. You know nothing about this life. You don't know how hard it is to make that iPhone, the people that make it, the people you know nothing about. You don't know nothing about earning that money to buy the iPhone. It's just no experience, just inexperience. That's all it is. Inexperienced and just ignorant. And ignorance can be very dangerous, man. In my opinion, ignorance can be very dangerous. I would either laugh at it, at a scene like that. I would either laugh at it, or I would just ignore it. Because I've seen a lot of those scenes, and sometimes you just have the time, and you're just like, yeah, you chuckle a bit. But other times you'll just pass by, knowing that that's just a huge portion of the world, and then you just ignore. You just go on your way.
So if someone listening to this, or even myself, if they're, because I can think of, hopefully I haven't thrown any tantrums like that, but I can definitely think of times where I can embarrassingly think back and be like, man, I was really upset over something really trivial.
I'll make it even more ridiculous right now. Yeah? Or as people are right now listening to this, imagine some beautiful, gorgeous beach. Yeah? Right? And they arrive there. Let's say it's a couple. Yeah. And it's a beautiful sunny day. Everything is right. It's a perfect day. And they go on the beach. And then one of the two, the guy or the girl, doesn't matter, says, "This beach is just too sandy for me. The sand is not the right complexion. The sand is not the right complexion. It just doesn't suit me." Ice cream comes. They say it's not the one I ordered. It didn't come with this or that, with this topping. I ordered apple topping and you brought me vanilla. It's an ice cream. It's a beach. What do you want? Look what life gave you. Everything to be exactly how you ordered it, exactly how you pictured it to be. You seek perfection. Life is not perfect. People make mistakes. Enjoy what you have. That's a crazy example, but people are doing it. And they're doing it because they probably didn't suffer. They probably didn't lose. And if they lost, if they suffered, if they had an agony, think of somebody like really rising from the bottom tier of the society and just fighting through every day, fighting to get to that middle, And when he gets there, goes to the beach. Hey, man, even the worst beach is going to be like, it's a beach, man. It's a beach. It's a beach. Doesn't matter. Ice cream is melting. It's not right. It doesn't matter. It's going to eat the cream. It's going to enjoy that sun, Or maybe even he's going to imagine in his garden that it's a beach. He's going to buy some inflatable pool. He's going to turn his garden into a beach. It's going to be like, hey man, at least I get to spend some time in water and I get to imagine what it's like on being a beach. Some people fantasize. Some people never saw a beach ever. And then you have people who are there and they complain about the sand complexity. So, that's just the point I wanted to make.
As I'm listening to this, I'm like, yeah, hopefully I've never complained about anything that absurd, but I'm sure there are some things where I could improve, or people who are listening could improve on. What advice do you have to somebody who hears this and they're like, yeah, maybe I did complain a bit too much, or maybe I'm not as appreciative as I should be over what I have. What advice do you have for them?
I would say if it's hard for you to imagine that you have a lot in your life, go to places where people really, really don't have anything. And you'll see that they don't complain because they're used to it. That's their life. That's what they know. Go to some places in Africa, go to some places in Asia, or go to Eastern Europe. Some people be like, oh, that's not safe, just go there. Nothing's going to happen. Take a chance sometimes, Take a risk. You can't always live under the bell. And if you go there and if you see how people live, if you become part of the society, you live there for a month or two, it's going to open your eyes. You're going to see that there's a different way of life. And then when you come back to here, it's going to be like, wow, man, people are literally giving everything of themselves just to have some food. They're working for miles just to have some dirty water. They're putting all this effort in building a shack. And for them, it's a luxurious home. And then from all of that, you come back to your home, you have tap water, the groceries are just there down the street. You have so many options and choices. And then you see life different, obviously. Then you start then you see yourself almost as a millionaire. Obviously, if you compare yourself to the 1%, to the billionaires and millionaires, you're going to have one really depressed life. But if you look at the vast majority of people that live in poverty, in extreme poverty, in extreme conditions, and you compare yourself, if you happen to be from a Western society, from, let's say, some average middle class background, then you have a great start. Because think of it this way, life is like rolling the dice, right? And let's say the 1 is the worst, and the 7 would be like a billionaire, Looks to me like the dice is most of the time rolled on 1s and 2s and 3s. 7s, that doesn't happen every time, man. 777, 777, come on, man. Come on. Just a few people in the world. You gotta see how people live. You gotta try and live like them, and then you will understand them. Even like, it's hard for us to imagine people that live in like a rich society and like super rich, like the 1%. We can watch documentaries about it. People can tell us about, but you don't really know what it's like unless you've lived like that. So in the same sense, to understand what you do have in your life, which is so much, you would have to see how people live in that extreme poverty, or just those basic conditions. And that's how it would open your eyes. And this place here is even worse than that, because at least those people are not getting shot at. Bombs are not falling and killing them. They don't have to fear for their lives. It's a different level.
I think about a lot of the places that I've been. I mean, I know I've talked with some people about this, but it always blows my mind when I go to Eastern Europe or Southeast Asia. It seems that the places where the people have the least are the ones who are the most hospitable. I mean, I remember being in Thailand, and I was riding on this bus. I was probably the only non-Thai person on the bus, and this old woman just started like giving me food, and we stopped to eat at this place, and she kind of on the bus, and this old woman just started like giving me food, and we stopped to eat at this place, and she kind of helped me order because I don't speak Thai. There was numerous occasions where people would just give me food on the street, or I was invited to people's homes, but you'd sit on the ground and eat, and they barely have anything, but they won't take money or anything like that. It just blows my mind that's it's not something that I expected. And even here, I found that you and your dad have been awesome to get to know, and just in general, I would say most people here have been relatively polite. Even though I'm like I'm not able to communicate the best with them, because sometimes all the menus and stuff are in Bosnian. They're still they're not like stupid American, you can't read. they're actually like, oh, no, let me help you. And do you have any thoughts on that and why there's so much hospitality in these parts of the world?
Because people suffered again. Because people suffered. If you their own car, their own iPhone, their own this, their own that, and when you got it all, you don't seek that much social interaction. However, when you come from a poor environment, you really struggle and suffer. There's a society, people help each other, and this society is something that people live and are taught by their parents. And then when you come here as an outsider or anybody, of course, you're going to become part of that society, and you're going to feel this, how people are trying to help each other. That's what it's about. Whether it's here or Southeast Asia or anywhere, that's what it is. People are just grow up in a society where people are very social. And if you look at the very developed countries in Western Europe, you will see that people have a problem with socializing. That's what it is, in my opinion. But another thing I wanted to tell you is that maybe some of your listeners, or whatever state it is, I have my own life, I have my job, I got my own problems. So what does all of that have to do with me? Well, let me ask you a thing. What is the difference between you and me? Essentially, we are just people. And as long as there's people, something like this, what happened here could happen anywhere. We disagree, conflict arises, it can happen anywhere, but it can also happen in a different form. It doesn't have to be a war. It could be something like in the form of a hurricane, natural disaster, or maybe like a nuclear disaster, or maybe like who knows, it could be anything. But still, the suffering and the scale could be almost identical. The living conditions and everything. So something like this can happen anywhere. The Japanese struggle with earthquakes. Some places in the world struggle with extreme weather conditions, hurricanes and stuff. Other world struggle with extreme weather conditions, hurricanes and stuff. Other places might have, some extreme diseases or poisonous animals or who knows what. Here it happens to be a war, but other places have other disasters. So it doesn't have to be just a war. It can be anything. I can say that being a war survivor, to anybody who's listening to this, it might sound cliche, but the most important thing is to survive, to stay alive, and never give up, no matter the odds.
I feel like that's such good advice, and I also struggle to think of a scenario where my survival was ever at risk. So I think that it's been awesome to hear your stories and to hear your advice for people who are really trying. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave everyone with today, like some other words of wisdom from running your running your hostel or your experiences?
I want to say that I don't have it all figured out. I don't know everything. I'm not some guru. I'm not some all-knowing person. I'm not perfect. I'm nothing like that. I'm just a war survivor. I'm just a guy who suffered a lot in his life, and I have my eyes wide open. I can give some advice. Some people will accept it, others will reject it. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what matters is really that you start appreciating what you have, whatever that is, and just going from there, just trying to live your life the way you want to live it, doing what you want to do, being constant and persistent in what you do, and just going for that sparkle that makes you go, that keeps you alive. Everybody has their own problems, man. Problems are problems. Suffering is suffering. I can't say I went through this and it overshadows everything else. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say everybody has their own demons and problems and everything. And, it's just a fight that everybody has to fight on their own, essentially. And we all make mistakes. We all learn. But I believe that, good note, no matter the odds, there's always a way out. There's always an escape. There's always a way where you can just find a path that will lead to something better. Because no matter how bad the day gets, a new day's coming. Something's coming. And even if it's no day, even if it's the end, well, something's coming, and you don't know what it is. And yeah, I mean, I could say a million things, but that's pretty much it. Thanks for having me on this podcast and thanking to this. Have a good one.
If they wanted to visit Sarajevo, I think I said it right, check out the War Hostel, how would they find it? And, maybe you can give them a quick invitation to come hang out with you for the weekend.
All they got to do is just type in War Hostel Sarajevo or War Hostel Bosnia, and it's the only one in the world. Even if you typed in just War Hostel, it would be the only one in the world. So it's pretty easy to find, Anyone is welcome as long as they read the description and they decide that is for them. Otherwise, if they just come judging by this podcast or judging by anything else but the description, they might be in for a surprise.
Well, folks, that is a wrap for this show. Big thanks to 01 for taking the time to share his perspective on the world and being more grateful, and how his suffering has really shaped his perspective. I'm going to leave you with one question from this interview. That I've been asking myself almost every day, and that is, if today was a second chance, how would you live your life differently? What choices would we make that are different than the ones we're making today? Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Stop by next week. I'm going to be dropping a episode that has to do with the essay, Am I Good Enough? Another one about my experience with hospitality in Albania. So, looking forward to you guys stopping by then. Ciao, everyone. Am I good enough? Another one about my experience with hospitality in Albania. So, looking forward to you guys stopping by then. Ciao, everyone. To you guys stopping by then. Ciao, everyone. One.